Hi, this is Kate from Generate Magic, and I want to follow up on my last video and talking about this idea of seeing ourselves as complete and this idea of wholeness. And so if you're struggling to see yourself as complete, or to see anything right in your life as complete, if you feel like there's something that's fundamentally flawed or fundamentally broken in your life, right? And you're really just having a lot of difficulty just just kind of seeing your way around it, right? Another way that you can achieve this sense of wholeness or completion is to be that source for somebody else. And Neil Donald Walsh, the author of Conversations with God, that series, he talks about this a lot, right? This idea that if you feel like let's say you feel like you're lacking in abundance, then to give to somebody else. And it doesn't have to be a lot, right? And it doesn't even have to be money. It could be your time, it could be your energy, but just giving in some way. Or if you feel lonely, reaching out to somebody else. And because trust me, like you're certainly not the only one in this world that feels lonely. And so when you're acting as that source for somebody else, not only are you achieving a sense of completion within yourself, but it also just feels good to be able to help somebody else in that way, right? And I know it's a little bit cheesy and a little bit cliche, but there really is like a sense of gratitude and a sense of fulfillment that comes from helping others that is really incomparable. And just being a source of strength and being a source of empowerment for other people. And Joseph Murphy also puts it really well. He says, if you want a friend, then be a friend. And yeah, there really couldn't be a truer statement than that, right? And there were definitely times in my life, especially when I was a teenager, I was very lonely. I felt very alienated from my peers. But then later I discovered that there were a lot of people in my very grade, in my very class, in my high school that were feeling the exact same way that I was. And if I had just made more of an effort to reach out to them, then we could have been that source of support and friendship for one another. And finally, in A Course in Miracles, one of the fundamental principles in A Course in Miracles is to always be teaching the course to other people in your life, right? And I don't mean necessarily teaching in the sense that we traditionally think of teaching, right? Of like getting up there with your whiteboard or your, your PowerPoint slides, but more teaching but as leading through example, right? And again, just kind of being that source of strength for other people. And sometimes because we have our blind spots, right? We can't necessarily see something in ourselves, but it can be easy to see it in somebody else, right? And it's not approaching it from a critical or a judgmental angle, right? Or, shaming other people or telling other people what they're doing wrong, but rather it's coming at it from the angle of seeing, okay, well, this is something that this person is struggling with, and seeing, okay, well, and usually when you see that, immediately it illuminates something within you that you're struggling with as well, right? Either currently or you've experienced it at some time in your life. And I think when we're operating from a state of unawareness, it can come in the form that I mentioned before. It can come in the form of shaming, of lashing out at others, projecting our own insecurities onto other people. And, or somebody comes to us, confiding in us about something, and we say something like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. Or we lecture them, right? And we lecture them not on what we actually would have done, but what we think we should have done, right? And so it's not any of those things, but rather it's seeing the person as a mirror of ourselves, and thinking about, okay, how would I have navigated this situation? And so when you're teaching the other person, it's like, or rather, I think guiding the other person, I think is a better way to express it, right? When you're guiding the other person, it's almost kind of like you're walking yourself through it at the same time, right? And it's recognizing, right, that we're never truly separate. We're all interconnected. And yes, we're all having our individual experiences, but yet I think the beautiful thing is, yeah, we all have our individual distinct experiences, but at the same time, we have these universal emotions, right? And we have these universal experiences that really connect us all together. And so we know what it feels like to feel hurt. We know what it feels like to be angry. And we know what it feels like to crave something or to yearn something or to yearn for something. We know what all of these things feel like, right? And so when somebody expresses one of these emotions to us, we can think about, okay, well, what's a time that I've experienced that in my life, right? Like, for example, what's a time maybe where I lashed out at somebody when really, like, I didn't mean it. Really, it was just because I was feeling hurt and I was just taking out my pain on somebody else. And then when we kind of think about it, looking at it from our perspective, but also at the same time kind of feeling what it's like to be on that other person's shoes, we're more easily able to guide them through the experience. And even if we can't really think of any like advice that we would offer them, and sometimes people don't want advice, right? Sometimes people just want to be listened to. At the very least, or not at the very least, at the most, what we're showing them, right, is that they're not alone. And I think above all, I think that's a fundamental yearning or a fundamental need in the human condition, right? It's just knowing that we're not alone and knowing that whatever it is that we're going through, even if we think that it's very distinct or very like out there, right? And we think that there's not possibly anybody else that's going through what we're going through, there is, right? And I think that's also, as a writer, I think this is why writing, why fiction, why movies can be so powerful, right? Is it's really showing these shared human experiences. And it's kind of showing all these experiences and even experiences that we might not want to talk about as much, right? So like these experiences that kind of maybe they bring up guilt and shame and things that we just want to kind of throw under the rug, right? But by seeing it expressed in other people, right, it can help us to feel more loving and more accepting of ourselves, and can help us to feel less alone in this universe. And so the sense of completion is a sense of completion and wholeness within self and integration within self. And it's also an integration within everything and everyone around you, right? Recognizing that we're all connected, that we are, all unified, right? And that we're all together having very diverse human experiences, right? And yet this very universal experience at the same time. And so with that, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.